On today's show, we are talking education versus execution.
My question to you is, I am hoping you are balancing your level of execution versus your level of education. It could be a disaster. If you're up like this, we need to be equal. Check it out right now.
Hey guys, today we're talking about education versus execution in real estate. They're both super important. Here's what happened last week. We had our meetup group here locally in Columbia, Maryland, and I was talking to a guy. It was the first time he had come to our meetup, and he and his wife, to date, in the past 6 months or so, have invested $82,000 in education and coaching and boot camps and stuff without buying a piece of real estate yet. And I'm not saying I'm not making fun of this guy in any way.
A lot of people fall in that trap.
This is an extreme example, but people do fall into this trap. So they have been so consumed with this education stuff that they've, in essence, spent the money that they had set aside to buy real estate. And at some point, you have to cut off the education and go into action and execute.
Yeah.
Buy something for the first time.
We're going to talk about those two things in detail, and then we're going to sum up what we believe is the right balance towards the end. And keep in mind, $82,000, if I told you it's going to cost you $82,000 to go to college, to learn a trade, to become an expert at something, you know, you can look at it both spectrums. It's a lot of money, it's not a lot of money. When it's all said and done, you do one big flip or two small flips, you make $80,000 back when it's all said and done. So I think don't worry too much about how much was already spent, because it already is spent. I think the important part is understanding it's important to educate yourself. You need to educate yourself.
I mean, ourselves, we spent 6 figures on coaching.
Yeah, exactly. But we spent 6 figures over time.
Over time.
We didn't go spend 6 figures on it, figure out what we want to do, and then never took to the next step or did action. No. So there's a lot of free tools out there, and don't get me wrong, I would rather spend money on the right tools and on the right education to fast track things, but at the same time, you don't need to, right? So I think like step one is to figure out what your interest level is, and maybe it takes you time to figure out what your interest level is. Maybe it was wholesaling, but then it was flipping, and then it's saying, oh, you know what, maybe I just want to do this, or maybe I just want to do that, maybe I just want to be a real estate agent, maybe I like helping others and being a consultant to people and not just doing stuff myself. I can't answer that, or we can't answer what's best for you. Figure out what your resources are. Your resources could be time, your resources could be money, your resources could be like you have a knack to have access to a lot of professionals to help you with things. But the important part is that education's big, and we know it's big. Forget the dollar signs on it. Don't, you know, it's like kind of going to college and then going to grad school and then getting another degree in another grad school and then going to medical school, and it's like you're just a serial student, right?
Right.
And that's okay, but we're talking about business here. We're talking about real life. The purpose of business is to make money, financial independence. That's the important part is. So again, educate yourself.
Stuck in education forever.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, in a second, we're gonna talk about the complete opposite side, about how you could really become a disaster by being an over-executor, not know what the hell you're doing because you weren't properly executed. But right now, we're talking about education.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like Jason said, there is a ton of free information out there. You don't necessarily have to pay to learn what you want to learn. You can pay, and there's good stuff there, and we've done plenty of that. And I don't hate on that at all. But you can't be 100% in education and 0% in execution. Like, what's that quote I said earlier? It came from Derek Sievers. If it said, if more information were the solution, we would all be billionaires with 6-pack abs.
Sounds great.
It sounds great, and that's not the case because execution plays such a huge role in getting anywhere, really. Yeah,
to sum this up, kind of 101 is mentally figure out kind of what side of the space you want to be in, right? Let's say you want to be a wholesaler. Great. Well, go consume information about wholesaling. Don't just consume it one night. You know, spend a few weeks on it, maybe a few months on it, and really learn learn what you can about wholesaling. Maybe spend some money on, you know, you don't need to buy 5 different boot camps. You know, maybe
one.
Yeah, go buy a boot camp. Go get some free resources. Learn until you fully grasp it, right? Until you fully grasp it. Now, keep in mind, if you're a wholesaler, that doesn't mean like you just need to understand how the transaction works. There's the marketing side of this. There's the accounting side of it. There's the selling. There's selling to buyers. There's buying at auctions. There's buying from sellers. So there's a lot of things related to it. But understand it and then take it to the next level, which is going to lead us to number 2 that we're going to talk about today. Number 2 bullet point of get kind of the basics going and then start taking actions and put what you learn to work.
Yeah. And let's talk about some tips to make sure that you actually do what you're trying to do and not just learn about what you're trying to do. So, very simply, you can set a date. I'm going to learn what I need to learn, and I'm going to buy or do a deal or whatever it is by September 1st, for example. And try to hold yourself as accountable as possible. You can do that by using a coach, a friend, a business partner, and you could even make a wager. You know, people are held accountable by stuff like that. Okay, if I don't buy a property by September 1st, I owe you $500.
Sure.
Right? All kinds of stuff to get you from that education phase to the execution phase.
Yeah, and keep in mind, as you're executing and as you're taking action, you're going to run into a speed bump. And when you run into the speed bump, you can familiarize yourself with it by learning more about that. So all of a sudden, you know, maybe you get your property under contract and the title company says, hey, what's this? You know, I need to know this. And you're like, oh, I've never heard of, or I buy property at auction, for instance, and then all of a sudden you decide you want to wholesale. They're like, wait a second, we need a substitute purchaser agreement. And they're like, wait a second, what's that? I don't know what that is. Okay, well, learn, educate yourself. There's going to be tons of challenges. Even today, after we've done thousands of deals, been involved in thousands of deals, like stuff comes up and it's like, that's new. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what to do with this. And I'm not 100% sure what to do is I take it, you know, one of us reads about it, learns about it, calls a professional that may know about it, and we figure out the answer to that so we can make a business decision of what to do. Yeah. So hopefully you guys are following because this is important stuff. So let's talk about overly executing on stuff. And if this is you, you're going to get yourself in trouble and you're going to get somebody else in trouble. You can't, don't get me wrong, like the term fake it till you make it, like I get all that, but when you're dealing with real estate, money, people's lives, people's homes, you have a responsibility to know what the heck you're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that, you know, you should be taking action, and it's important to move forward on it. And if you need help, you can have people help you. But there's a lot of idiots out there that literally are just going gung ho, putting properties under contract. You know, yeah, I promise we'll get this thing taken care of, and it is it's bad news. So you can't just all of a sudden execute and just go grind it out and, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm buying this, and you're actually putting properties under contract with no way to buy them. Be careful and be smart. Yeah, you really can't be all execution and no education. You have to have that balance. Like, for example, like Jason and I aren't, you know, putting 100 grand into options today, like calls and puts, and guarantee we'll lose money. We have no idea how to do that. And you see that in real estate. And part of it's because there's almost no barrier to entry. You don't need to pass an exam. You don't need to have any kind of license or certification to buy property, so anybody can do it. Yeah. And then you listen, and there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of scam artists out there that are smart enough and they have the personality type that they can go raise capital and they have they're going to go raise capital and they're going to go lose that capital. We've done loans for borrowers out there that bring gap funding to the table, and they have no skin in the game and they got nothing to freaking lose as far as they're concerned. They walk right away, and you know, we're doing workouts with the gap funders to try to help them, you know, get some of their money back. So between that and putting properties under contract that you just don't have the resources and the ability to do stuff, just be smart about it. We're going to sum this up with balance and scale of education versus execution and action, right? Think about what a scale looks like, right? This is the bottom of a scale. Start educating yourself, right? And you know a little bit more than you're doing. Then you start doing some action, and that equals out with you're doing the execution, the action based on your skill level. And then you do a little bit more, and then you do a little bit more, right? That's all good. What is not good is being overly educated with no action and never doing any execution, never doing anything, or the complete flip side, which will end yourself up in jail or just all bad stuff when you don't know what the hell you're doing, but you're doing it. And you have no right doing it. So shame on you if that's you on that case. So just listen, there's no get rich quick overnight. It doesn't work like that. Put in the time, put in the energy, right? Learn, execute, learn, execute, learn, execute. You will be at the top of your food chain very, very quickly by just doing things the right way and just going through the motions, and it takes time, but do it the right way. Yeah, if you could, tell us a story about something that you learned recently that you immediately applied. So you got the education and the execution, and a good result happened. We'd be happy to hear about it, chat about it. Yeah, hopefully you like watching and listening to this podcast, the H&B podcast. Comment below if you have any questions related to this. As always, we really, really appreciate this. If you could share this with your friends, trying to help build the community. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Until next time, thanks.